Have you ever wondered how to text her the right emoji or say the perfect line? This is about transforming yourself into a man who doesn't have to chase anyone because he lives in such powerful alignment with who he is. People feel his energy even when he's not around. Welcome to my channel. Philosophy of Stoicism, how to become the man she keeps thinking about. This is it you're going to learn how to stay in her mind without trying to build emotional imprinting that makes her crave your presence and gain control over your life in a way that makes you magnetic. You're not here to beg, you're here to evolve. So before we begin, make a decision right now to not just watch this, but to apply it. And if you're ready to claim your silent confidence, hit like, subscribe, and comment. Claim my space below. Let's continue this journey together. Now, let's begin. You're not just helping me, you're helping other men find the strength they didn't know they had. The more this spreads, the more men get access to the wisdom they need. Let's create something powerful together. The power of scarcity. Scarcity isn't just a principle of marketing. It's the foundation of perceived value in every area of life, especially in human relationships, what we can't easily have. We instinctively value more. This isn't a trick or a tactic, it's wired into us. Look at anything the world goes crazy for. Limited edition sneakers, rare sports cars, concert tickets that sell out in seconds. People don't chase these things only because they're useful. They chase them because they're rare, because not everyone can have them. Because owning them means you're part of something exclusive. The same psychology applies to you when you're always around, always available, always responding instantly. You lose the very thing that makes your presence feel special, your scarcity. Most men don't realize this. They think that constant communication equals care. They believe being available all the time shows loyalty or love, but in reality, it signals the opposite. It tells her your time isn't valuable, that your life isn't full, that you don't have enough going on beyond her. And over time, that constant presence becomes background noise, predictable, easy to overlook, even annoying. That's how attraction slowly fades. Not because you did something wrong, but because you did too much. Scarcity isn't about playing games, it's about building a life that's worth respecting. If your days are full of goals, discipline, learning, and physical and mental growth, you won't have time to constantly check your phone or wait for her replies. You won't be obsessing over what to text next. You'll be immersed in your mission. That shift alone changes everything when you're not always available. Not because you're trying to look mysterious, but because you're genuinely committed to your path. She starts wondering what you're doing, where you've been, why you haven't texted yet. That curiosity is powerful, and it only exists when there's space. The man who always reaches out first, who's eager to respond within seconds, who makes himself constantly accessible, becomes expected, and anything expected becomes less valued. On the other hand, the man who moves with purpose, who's calm in his silence, who doesn't chase validation, that man stands out when he finally speaks. It feels like it matters. When he gives attention, it feels intentional because it is. He's not giving it away to earn love. He's offering it as a gift, and that's a completely different energy. The essence of scarcity is intention. You don't disappear to punish you. Don't ignore to gain power. You simply invest your time wisely. You give space so she can feel the difference between your presence and your absence. And when your absence feels louder than most people's presence, you've mastered something most men never understand. Scarcity turns you from an option into a memory, into a question mark that lingers, into a thought that pops up. In quiet moments, she starts thinking, why do I keep wondering what he's doing? Why does it bother me that he hasn't reached out? And the answer is this, because she can feel that you're not waiting on her approval, you're not orbiting around her attention, you're living your life with purpose, you're building something meaningful. And that level of self-respect is deeply magnetic. So if you want her to crave your energy, don't give it away constantly. Let her feel your absence. Let her miss you, not because you vanished, but because when you're around, you bring something so rare, so centered, so powerful that it sticks with her when your presence feels like a privilege, not a routine. That's when you stop being just another man and become the one she can't stop thinking about. Mastering the art of detachment isn't about being cold, uncaring, or emotionally distant. It's about creating internal stability so solid that your world doesn't collapse based on who stays or who leaves. It's about walking into every interaction, whether with a woman, a friend, or a stranger, with calm energy, not clinging desperation. You don't need to be ice cold to master detachment. You need to be whole. You need to build a life that's so rooted in your values, your mission, your purpose, that nobody becomes the center of your existence except you. This is where real confidence is born. Not in the number of women you attract, but in the realization that you don't need to chase anyone you care, but you don't collapse. You love deeply, but you never lose yourself in the process. Because the minute you hand someone else the keys to your emotional world, you've surrendered your power. Most men lose attraction not because they're not good enough, but because they trade their self-respect for attention. They try to perform, they overextend, they wait for replies with anxiety, instead of anchoring themselves in what truly matters. Their own presence. Women can feel the difference. They can feel when your energy comes from lack, from hoping to earn love, from craving validation. That energy is heavy, it's not attractive, it doesn't draw them closer, it pushes them away. But when you're detached from the outcome, everything shifts. You become a man who isn't afraid to walk away. Not because he's playing games, but because he knows his worth. That's power. That's what makes your silence echo. That's what makes your attention feel like. Goal detachment creates space. And space is where desire breathes. When you aren't constantly trying to make her like you. When you aren't available on demand. When you aren't monitoring every interaction, hoping for a specific result. You free her to choose you authentically. And that's the only kind of love worth having, because if she chooses you out of freedom, not fear that bond has roots, she isn't drawn to you because you're available. She's drawn to you because you don't need to be that space. You hold the one where you don't react to every test, every delay, every shift in mood. That space is where her respect grows. It's in that space that she starts to look at you differently. She begins to realize he's not like the others. He's not trying to win me. He's not seeking permission to matter. He's already full, already grounded, and that kind of presence is rare. That kind of man doesn't need to prove anything. When you live detached, you walk in freedom. And freedom is magnetic because in a world where most people are desperate for approval, your calm detachment becomes intoxicating. You stop being an option and start becoming the standard. So how do you develop this? Start with small things. Delay your responses not out of manipulation, but to break the habit of emotional dependence. Sit with your discomfort instead of reacting. Choose growth when your ego screams for validation. Meditate, train building, and most importantly, keep showing up for yourself. The more you align your life with purpose, the more effortlessly you detach. And when you no longer need someone to complete you, you give them the most powerful reason to come closer. Your wholeness. You are not here to perform for affection. You are here to radiate value, and when that radiance doesn't beg to be seen, but simply exists, you become unforgettable, not because you tried, but because you stopped trying, and became embracing unpredictability. Predictability is safe, but it's also invisible, and invisibility kills attraction in the beginning. Being consistent might feel romantic. Reaching out every morning, responding within seconds, always being available when she calls. But over time, that familiarity becomes routine. And what becomes routine becomes easy to ignore. That's the silent killer of desire. Not disrespect, not conflict, but boredom when she knows exactly what you'll say. When you'll say it and how you'll act in every situation. There's no curiosity left to stir, no spark left to chase, no excitement left to feel attraction, feeds on mystery. It needs space to breathe. It needs the unknown. When your actions are predictable, her mind stops engaging with you. She stops wondering, she stops thinking about you between texts. Why? Because there's nothing new to discover. And without discovery, there's no emotional movement. But when you're unpredictable, not in a chaotic way, but in a purposeful way, you reactivate her attention. You give her something to wonder about again. This doesn't mean you have to become distant or unavailable just to play games that's insecurity in disguise. What it does mean is that your life should be so full, so rich, so focused that your time naturally becomes less predictable when you're pursuing your goals. Relentlessly, when your calendar is filled with things that make you better, when you're constantly growing as a man, then her access to you becomes earned, not assumed, and that changes everything. Let's break it down simply if she expects you to text. Good morning at 7:58 a.m. every single day. Stop. Not because you want to frustrate her, but because you're genuinely busy becoming something greater when you do reach out. It's not on autopilot, it's intentional. And that intention carries weight. If you always say yes to plans, always bend to her schedule, always cancel things for her, start saying no, not to be defiant, but because you respect your time too much to let it be controlled by someone else's expectations. That kind of boundary isn't rejection, it's leadership. Real unpredictability isn't about disappearing or acting mysterious. It's about being so dialed into your personal growth that you're no longer driven by neediness or routine, you're driven by vision. That's what makes you interesting. That's what makes her lean in. The truth is, the mind doesn't crave comfort. It craves stimulation when she doesn't know exactly when she'll hear from you, when she can't fully predict what you'll say or where your next move is. Her mind starts working, it starts replaying conversations, analysing interactions, craving closure, craving clarity, craving you. And when that happens, you become a source of emotional stimulation, not just another guy in her inbox. Here's a truth. Few will tell you the man who always does what's expected never stands out. The man who always shows up the same way becomes forgettable, but the man who evolves, who surprises, who moves differently, that man sticks in her mind like a question she can't answer. And that question becomes obsession. So embrace unpredictability, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of your lifestyle. Fill your life with things that matter. Train hard, read deeply, build wealth, explore new places, learn new skills. The more alive your world is, the less predictable you become. And the less predictable you are, the more unforgettable you become. Unpredictability doesn't mean you're unreliable, it means you're untamed, and that's the difference building emotional memory. You don't need to be constantly present in someone's life to be remembered. In fact, the people we remember most often aren't the ones who were always there, but the ones who made us feel something unforgettable. When they were true, emotional impact doesn't come from repetition, it comes from depth. And this is where most men get it wrong. They think presence is about quantity. But the heart doesn't measure how often, it measures how deeply. And that depth is what makes you linger in her thoughts long after you're gone. Let me explain what emotional memory really is. It's not just nostalgia, it's not just memories. It's the emotional fingerprints you leave behind the way you made her feel in a specific moment when time seemed to pause, when she felt fully seen, when she laughed without holding back, or when your silence said more than 1,000 words, these moments create anchors in her mind. And those anchors get triggered over and over again by the smallest things. A song playing in a cafe, a smell drifting in the air, a phrase you once said that echoes in her mind at the most unexpected time. You become unforgettable. Not because you were loud or persistent, but because you were real. You made her feel safe when she didn't expect it. You made her feel understood when nobody else took the time to listen. You looked her in the eye when she was used to men, only looking at her body. You didn't talk over her. You didn't try to impress you. Simply were there, present, grounded, attentive. And in that space of calm intensity, you made her feel something she hasn't felt in years. Genuine connection. That moment gets stored, not just in her memory, but in her nervous system, in her body, in her emotions. And when the noise of life quiets down, when she's alone with her thoughts, it returns to her, and so do you. Emotional memory isn't created by doing a million things right. It's created by doing a few things with absolute presence, a well-timed compliment that cuts through the noise and hits her soul, a laugh you share over something absurd that only you two would find funny. A goodbye hug that lasts a little longer, because you're not rushing life a moment where she felt your eyes on her, not with lust, but with admiration and presence. These are what stick, not the gifts, not the gestures, but the moments of real human resonance. So how do you create this? You slow down, you observe, you notice the things she says between the lines. You remember the small details she didn't expect you to care about. You make space for stillness in your presence, because in a world obsessed with attention, stillness becomes power. The quieter your mind, the more you hear what others miss, and when you hear what others miss, you touch her in a way no one else has. This is why random guys come and go, but only a few stay in her heart, because most men touch the surface, but very few go deep. When you make her feel something unique, meaningful, safe, and emotionally intense. Without trying to manipulate or control, she stores that experience in a sacred part of her memory. And from that day forward, every man she meets will unconsciously be compared to you. That's how strong emotional memory works. It's not created through performance. It's created through presence. It's not built on what you say. It's built on what she feels when she's around you, and even more when you're gone. And the most beautiful part is this: when you leave an emotional imprint that's strong, her mind doesn't need your permission to miss you. It does it naturally, quietly, consistently, because you became not just a person, you became an experience. And experiences, especially powerful ones, are impossible to forget. So don't chase, don't force. Instead, focus on depth. Show up fully. Be real. Be calm. Be present, and let her memory do the rest. You don't need to be the loudest or the richest or the smoothest. You need to be the man who knows who he is, where he's going, and how he carries himself. You become unforgettable, not by forcing your way into her world, but by building a world so aligned, so rich, so purposeful, that she wants to be a part of it. This is silent charisma. This is how you make her think about you. Nonstop. You don't chase attention. You command it. You don't beg for connection. You attract it. And you don't fear distance. You master presence. The man she replays in her mind isn't the one who did the most. It's the one who moved with the quietest strength. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to Philosophy of Stoicism for more real, relatable advice on navigating the complexities of love and relationships. Remember, relationships take time, care, and effort, but the rewards are worth it. When fear and caution are met with understanding and patience, they transform into trust and connection. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.